The issue of climate change, climate warming, fossil fuel prints, and environment as a whole, not nationally but globally, needs to be understood not in terms of decades but in terms of centuries. The piecemeal study, tailor made study, unfounded scientific studies do not help us in understanding the gravity of the situation and the immediacy of the society. We all know that for a nation state and its government, the immediate priority is how to mitigate poverty, increase employment, increase the prosperity, etc. In the most of democracies, a democratic government is mandated for 5 years, 4 years. So the entire vision of that government doesn't rise more than 5 years. And if any government thinks in terms of decades, centuries, so that democratic government has chances of losing things. So a democratic government is mandated for 5 years, 4 years. So it thinks in these terms what is the best way to please the people and mandate. So here there is a dichotomy between the tenure of the government and tenure of the society or nation. A nation doesn't need a 5 years plan, 10 years plan, it needs a plan forever. So the problem here comes is that fractured tenures and a long term vision. I think we have come in an age where certain issues should be beyond the purview of tenure based governments, but a long term vision needs to be adopted. But as we know that there are certain constraints of democracy, and perhaps democracy itself is developing and evolving with the time. And at this point of time, when I am giving this lecture, I think that the problem of permanency, perpetuity, and the constraints of a tenure of a democratic government has certain contradictions, has certain constraints, and this is where I want to focus. But I will take this issue in the next lecture. Today, my issue is the climate change, global warming, etc. etc. I was listening a lecture of Al Gore. I was surprised more by the lecture, not by the lecture, but by the timing. When American elections are being held, when there is diametrically opposed view of both parties, Democratic and Republican, where Democratic want to sign the Paris deal, Green New Deal program, while the Republicans are scared or are having certain apprehensions with regard to Paris talks and Green New Deal. And at that time, the lecture of Al Gore, and it is not an old, but the timing is something which makes me a little bit apprehensive about things. Before going into details, I would like to discuss the lecture of Mr. Al Gore about the global warming. He said among his all talks, one thing which I could very seriously understand was that the normal temperature of ocean is increasing because of our climate, atmospherics, and due to that, even the normal sunshine doesn't need to take more time to heat the ocean, and then the summer is evaporating ocean more because it is already heated, and then it takes less time and evaporation, and because of this there is an increase in floods because of the global warming. Global warming has already started heating the sun at their base level comparing to the pre-periods, and then that warming of the oceans is actually increasing the floods because the summer doesn't need more time to heat the ocean, and already it is warm, and then the scorching heat further evaporates, and because of this lot of vapor in the atmosphere, and because of that lot of rains. And he cited several examples like current floods in China, India, Europe, America, etc., etc. In fact, that was a very startling thing he told me. In fact, I used to be more worried about droughts. What I really feel scared about the global warming is that let it not result into global droughts, because floods we can manage, droughts we cannot, because successive droughts actually creates a lot of problem not only for crops but for drinking water. But increase in floods because of global warming, I do believe this is a good sign, because that is in a way charging the mother earth for its depleted water. And if floods are coming, abrupt floods are coming, mankind should develop certain strategies rather than going to the fossil fuels. We should channelize the water and develop some hydroelectric electric projects. So it is a win-win situation. Okay? Fossil fuel is doing the global warming. Global warming is causing more floods, and flood water is being tapped, trapped in hydroelectric projects, and which is increasing more in the electricity production, and that's a win-win situation. And not only this situation, even floods in general are better than droughts. If I have to opt between flood and drought, I will opt flood. Flood is a good sign because our industrialization, electrification, commercial activities, residential requirements has actually uh, withdrawn more water from the underground reservoir of the earth. How it is going to be recharged? Floods are one source, because if floods are followed by better water management, flood water management, it can not only charge the mother earth depletion of water, but it can be channelized into various productive ways rather than ruining the entire flood water going to the ocean. I have very strong view that digging and then connecting rivers is a very very costly project. But interconnecting rivers through pipelines like aisles, etc., we do, and then diverting the water from the flood areas to the water starving areas to the water deficit areas, and then rechannelizing it frequently will not only neutralize the flood effect but in fact give us a sustainable reservoir of water. So this argument of Mr. Al Gore that it is increasing floods is a welcome. If the global warming is going to increase the floods, I must say I must welcome global warming, because ultimately the biggest source of drinking water is rain, and if global warming is producing more rains, it is a welcome. So it is compensating in a way. To us, and once the vapor is more into atmospherics, it is going to increase the snowfall. So snowfall will happen, only problem will come because of the global warming. Glaciers will melt faster. Okay, the snowfall will be more, raining will be more, snowfall will melt, and there will be enough water in summer and winter. Where is the problem? If the temperature of the earth is increasing, I would like to connect two dots. I read today a story that general body temperature is increasing globally. What it used to be 96, 97 is going to be around 98. Why this change is happening? Somebody said me this is because we so many lifestyle changes, etc., etc. But if our global body temperature is increasing around on an average 1 point few centigrades, and if 1 Fahrenheit, and if the global temperature is also increasing for in terms of few Fahrenheit, so is it not that our body is adjusting with it? The productivity of nature, infinity of atmospherics, we should not very much define in very, very narrow parameters. If we are able to understand the climate change, see, this entire lecture doesn't mean that I am a lobbyist and I do not like clean energy. Yes, we should incrementally do the clean energy, but as an abrupt measure to stop fossil fuel fracking, fossil fuels, etc., and then shifting to the clean energy will devastate the economy and enhance the poverty of nations. Because entire Middle East is totally based on fossil fuels. What will happen to them if all countries cut their fossil fuel consumptions? What will happen to these Arab countries? Their whole sole revenue is oil. Any abrupt thing without having each and every stakeholder on board will definitely impact adversely than positively. Therefore, I think that was a more a political kind of statement of Mr. Al Gore, and I have here certain disagreements with what Mr. Biden says, Madam Kamala Harris says, and I here totally agree with Mr. Trump that no country can become a climate leader until unless the entire globe takes commensurate measures to address the issue. It doesn't mean that if China is not following the climate commitments, and if America is following, there will be climate justice. No, not at all. It is going to disbalance the American prosperity, and then it will create social unrest, and it will dethrone governments. The problem with the democratic regimes are that their government cannot think beyond more than 5 years, and their people cannot expect more than 5 years. So expectation constraint and delivery constraints both make the democratic regimes very much vulnerable to certain long-term goals of the world. And here the authoritarian regimes try to play with these democratic vulnerabilities, and then what not. I mean, they can manage the media. These authoritarian regimes being the possessor of huge resources in their countries, and they know the tricks of the trade. They know who are the political, economic, and media elites, power elites, influencers in these democratic countries, or their intellectual leaders, and then the systematic penetration in their caucus by hooks and crooks, and then weakening the democratic regimes by waging the propaganda war and information war, and finally getting their goals done. So for authoritarian regimes, nothing is impossible, because they are answerable to none but to their own whims and fancies, discretion. So what they can do or what they should do is not possible for a democratic country, because a democratic country has to be answerable to the people in terms of its mandate of the government, and that is very for limited period, and people are very much ambitious about deliveries of the government, and they toss the governments like anything, and that is the beauty of democracy. Therefore, I fully think that democratic regimes cannot afford to be absolutely committed to the climate commitments on the cost of poverty and unemployment prevailing in their countries. So, to that extent, I will say that the lecture of Mr. Al Gore was okay in terms of science, but in terms of as a as a coordinate of public policy, I do differ with that, and to that extent, I don't agree, because countries like India and other developing countries need to abolish poverty and unemployment at critical level first before talking lofty ideals of climate justice. Already India is doing lot of obligations, or personal obligations in terms of solar energy and all that, and perhaps India is doing a lot. So it's a gradual replacement is better than very forcible cuts of fracking, fossil fuels, because solar energy is still in a very critical stage of development. It's still solar technology is a very much developing, because the energy conversion ratio of a solar panel is just around 20. If I do investment and tomorrow a technology comes which can convert 40% of solar energy into electricity, then my entire investment is gone. A technology which is evolving, investors are scared to invest more and more, because the technology itself may be a disruptor. Therefore, solar energy is fine, but a private investor thinks what is the long term horizon. A solar panel may be having a life of 20 and 25 years, but what will happen? Tomorrow, a solar panel comes up 50% conversion rate of solar energy in comparison 20, then the person will be at that time investor will be over smarting the earlier investor, and nobody is going to offer the commitment, because there are democratic constraints. So the technology has still not saturated solar. I am sure that solar conversion technology will finally settle around 60% of conversion of solar energy into electricity. Till that situation has arrived, the solar investments are not going to be a very, very desired solution, because in that situation, because in that situation any investor will be vulnerable to the risk of investments. Similarly, wind energy has certain constraint. Okay, coastal areas can be better, but it is still not commercially viable. If wind energy grid, I mean, in the coastal areas or in the deep seas or high seas, if there is some mechanism is there, then it can happen. But I am more reliant and expecting something on the front of solar energy, because a lot of technologies in the solar energy are in the offing. Solar paint has been developed where you don't need a solar panel but just paint your roof. It will convert the sun heat into energy, and the solar panels themselves are being developed to absorb more energy and convert the solar energy. So any technology which has not saturated is not going to be a viable alternate for clean energy, and no private investor will be having the confidence to invest in that for so much. And to that extent, I can always say that our climate commitment must be pragmatically designed. It should not be designed by intellectuals only, but it should be designed by the all stakeholders of society, because poverty itself is the biggest pollution. So poverty alleviation should be the first aim, and then global warming, etc. Because if in one part of the world there is a abject poverty, the purpose will not solve. And then second thing is that those countries totally reliant on the fossil fuel energy, if their revenue sources are abruptly finished, the world is switching to the electric cars, etc., etc., and if the gasoline or fossil fuels are rejected from our consumption itineraries, then these countries should in advance try to develop some alternate sources of income in their countries. Otherwise, their entire edifice of development will collapse. So that is one such thing which I find very critical. So maybe the Arab world, maybe the Siberian oil well, maybe the fracking or the seal oil of America, all these resources of nature should be utilized, and then we should switch over to the other resources, because one resource will deplete and then we should discover the other resource to replace the continuum of energy, rather than abruptly finishing one resource and then switching to next, like academic thinking, and that is going to be very very bad in terms of poverty or prosperity of a nation. So today's my lecture is regarding that. Thank you very much. God bless you. Take care.